Hello, this is Carrie with Create Love, and yesterday I popped on with some completion exercises and forgiveness and cleaning the slate to move forward in a fresh way in our relationships, and how end of the year completion times is just a really beautiful time to do that in our relationships and our romantic relationships and other relationships. And after I published it, I realized that it felt a bit incomplete because the other piece that is really key in this, along with the completion and like cleaning the slate, this is actually something that took me a very long time to figure out, and a piece that I still work through in different connections, is the crucial part of setting boundaries. Setting boundaries that for the health and vitality of the connection and for yourself. So since it's just such a broad topic, and I took on sort of all the things yesterday, the three areas of relationship, especially romantic relationship and really all relationships, that there is a greater need for deeper support. So in like doing the forgiveness, and it, like that is still a beautiful thing to do. And the boundary setting, and then step forward, like the steps forward, are a little bit more, not a little bit, a bit more involved. They're more involved, they're more complex with the big three, which are addictions, betrayals. So betrayals could be infidelities, they could be betrayals of agreements. So, financial things could play along with betrayals, and unsafe behaviors. That could be, anything that people would categorize in the category of abuse, whether that be like mental, psychological, emotional, physical, all of those. The big three, the addictions, the betrayals, and the unsafe behaviors, they're all things that need a lot more structured support. So with addictions, there are, 12-step programs that have really, really helped people's lives in great ways. And there are for, both people in addiction and then people that are in relationship or family of addicts. Actually, I don't like the word addicts. Just like I don't like labeling anything. One of the reasons that I moved away from 12-step stuff after experimenting it for a while is I think that labels are a little bit problematic. But anyways, for the family members of people that are dealing with addictions. And for, betrayals, that is more likely going to be a coach or a therapist. There are, also some really incredible programs out there to heal betrayals, but that is going to need more support. And then unsafe behaviors. There is an organization that's called Life Skills that actually goes into deeper levels of healing when there are unsafe behaviors that I would say aren't at a critical point. And if you're feeling unsafe in your relationship, there it is important to get help right away. And there are a lot of anonymous hotlines and places that you can call to get free counseling. So all of those things are going to be, I did not want to put that into the category of forgive and just move on, because they are relational patterns that have need greater level of healing to move through. And then boundaries with others. So, like with other situations in relationships. So if you have done the forgiveness work and you realize that there has been a trend in your relationship, and you want to, change the dynamic of the relationship, The way to do that is to set a boundary, and in the changing of the dynamic of the relationship. I mean, you may find with a forgiveness practice, you were kind of holding this thing that this person did once, and there's, not really a need to set a boundary. It's not, a behavior that the person repeats. But for example, I can give an example of setting a boundary, and a lot of people get involved in somewhat unhealthy fighting patterns, and some of this can get into unsafe behaviors as well. But one boundary that you could set after doing the forgiveness practice, and it's a beautiful way to set a boundary, is explaining to the person how you feel when they do the particular behavior, first of all. So how it makes you feel, not that you do this, not anything about their character, not anything about making them wrong. I picked in a fight scenario, maybe a couple where one person called the other person a name. I'm not even going to put in a name that could be triggering. So you might say, like, when you called me a name, I felt deflated, or I felt disrespected, or I didn't feel valued. I'd appreciate it if you don't do it again. And then, so that's first, just letting the person know the effect of their behavior. So life is always giving us feedback, and sometimes we're not actually giving the people that we're in relationship with feedback about their behaviors and how their behaviors cause us to feel. And this isn't about pointing our fingers at the other person. It really is just naming out that, like, when this behavior happens, I feel this. So again, it's like, when you called me this name, I felt deflated. I'd appreciate it if you don't do it again. And then next comes the boundary. And the boundary would be like, if you call me a name again when we're fighting, I'm going to leave the room for a half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour, whatever time you feel, before I return. I'm not going to be leaving the discussion or the argument. I just need to feel respected in this space. So the thing about that, that is a boundary. That is you talking about what you need in a discussion to preserve yourself, to take care of your own needs, to take care of yourself. So there is this beautiful opportunity when we're looking back at forgiveness and doing this completion with people. Sometimes the forgiveness is the thing that we just need to let go of something. We need to look at it from a different perspective. We need to bring in our curiosity and our willingness to see that maybe we created a story about something that, wasn't a big deal at all. I listened to Lewis Howes' podcast, and him and his fiance were telling a story about how he went to dinner with her and her family, and she asked him to save some kind of game at the restaurant for them to play, like a station with the game. And when she came in, he was like sitting in another place, like eating ice cream. And like, she decided like she could have made something out of that. And she was like, oh, how curious. He's like, he's eating ice cream. What's going on? Like, you wanted ice cream. And she entered the conversation in curiosity. What I love about that example, and I loved when they shared it so much in a podcast of his that I heard, is that sometimes we hold on to things and we create stories about things, and there's so many different ways to see that event or any other event like that. That's kind of like a silly example of a little thing, right? And sometimes the thing that we've been holding on, that the forgiveness and like what we're actually holding on to, is something that we need to set a boundary around to feel better within the relationship, for the relationship to be healthier and to be stronger. I think one of the things that I feel about relationships is that, yes, it's absolutely ideal when two people meet and they come together and they've done all of this personal work and they're really owning each side of their stuff, and they come together with great willingness and agreements to form this conscious relationship. And that is some people's story. And some people's story is that they come together and they fall in love and they form a relationship that has all these other things. And so I like to add in all of the possibilities for all of these other spaces, because no matter what relationship you're in, you can always get to healthier, you can always get to more love. And, sometimes in some relationships, that means releasing the way that relationship is and moving on. And a lot of times there is structure and support and all different things that can help people move through things. So it'd be a lot for me to go over every category of what to, every situation. I just felt really good to come in and talk about boundaries, because I think that's a really important piece. Along with forgiveness. So wishing you and all of your loved ones and your romantic partner and whoever you're doing this exercise with, wishing you a beautiful start to 2024 and a beautiful connection and relationships. Oh, and if you're coming in new and enjoying the content, please hit subscribe. To hear, lots of really fun conversations. I go to places and spaces with myself and with other people that are uncommon, and I'd like to go into brave spaces so that I can bring you great value to your life in terms of wherever you are in your relationships and in your own growth. So I would love to have you on the journey.